So what I want to do is give you kind of an introduction this morning about how to read specific traits in the face in terms of organ function, how to tell if someone's strong in one organ or the other, how to tell also a little bit about how to tell when treatment is working well, because you can actually see on the face places that show you how well treatment is going. This afternoon, I'm going to invite C.T. Holman, one of my favorite students, and also his own right a great acupuncturist teacher. We're actually going to talk about the endocrine system and the hormones. He's going to be giving you points that we actually have worked through, and mostly he's worked through, that we work with patients to heal the endocrine problems that are out there. So we're actually going to give you some hands-on point combinations that you can actually use right away in the clinic. So this morning's more theoretical. This afternoon's a little more hands-on. I don't think we have time for a demonstration, so, but if anyone wants to ask him more about it afterwards, you can do that. So to start with, I showed you this map if you were in the plenum, the early introduction. This one is a fun map because I like to look at all the different colors, and to me it makes it a lot easier to recognize where the organs are. And if you notice, there's a lot more blue and green than any other color. And the areas that deal with the heart or deal with the stomach and spleen and pancreas, or the areas that deal with even the intestines are very, very small in the face. This is not a very big area, okay? And therefore, the kind of seeing that you have to do is very detail-oriented. And one of the things you have to learn when you're reading faces is you always start off with a baseline. And so often it's helpful to see people more than one time, because you're going to see how their skin color is, after they have had a good night's sleep, or after they've had a flu, you're going to see a different color. And you just don't want to monitor, different colors in the face or different strengths in the organs. And the baseline is really helpful. So if you're seeing someone for the first time and they have a really red face, you do have to ask them, have you been out in the sun? But if they haven't been in the sun, their face is really red, you have something. If it's red in one area, you have something else, okay? If it hasn't been red and suddenly gets red, you have something else. So you're looking to see, why is that area colored in a different way? Or why is that feature on the face changing in its function? So for example, I had a client not very long ago who, when she first came to see me, I don't see clients that many times, but she came to see me, her chin was quite strong. The next time she comes to see me, her chin is very compromised. It was very crumpled, kind of like orange peel, and rumpled up. And I said, what happened? And she goes, oh God, I had the most horrible car accident. I mean, a really horrible car accident. And it made her so fearful that her chin actually changed in shape and structure so that you could see how much fear was held in her body. Of course, I'm going to send her to get work done by somebody who can handle her fear, whether it's a psychologist and or an acupuncturist. And I did my part in helping her take a look at that accident or injury. But literally the difference between the time she came before, where her chin was strong and healthy and it was good, and the time she came after an accident, just once again reinforced for me how specifically the face marks when you go through big traumas, when you experience certain illnesses. The face shows very quickly what's going on. So if you think about the face as a hologram, you'll have a much easier time. And in my master face reading program, a number of my students are here. I'm so happy to have you all here. One of the things that we do is take before and after pictures of the students, but also we have them read people and do before and after pictures. And one of the shocking aspects of face reading is in a 1-hour consultation, people's faces can change quite drastically. In fact, we've discovered things like their teeth get whiter. We've discovered their eyebrows getting thicker, their cheekbones getting stronger. We're seeing things in 1 hour that I would have said 20 years ago, well, that's going to take a long time for their bones to get bigger. And teeth getting white, I have no idea, except that we believe that it's Shen coming through the teeth. Who knew that's the best whitening treatment around? So I don't know how to do it yet, but I do know it's possible. And so this holographic face is just really representing anything that's going on inside.
Okay, so my friends and gems, thanks for, my goodness.
Part of Chinese and Japanese medicine is diagnosed.
Sorry about that. Okay, my friends and gems, thanks for joining for Chinese face reading today. And we are going to get started here with reading from page 222. So let's give a little bit of a bumpier ride because my screen share did not want to work when we first got on here today, but let's move forward here with the eye shape. Let me see if I can get the screen share to work for the book now. Here we go, the screen share. Okay, so here we are with eye shape. And so we're starting on page 222. Make sure everything is good to go here. Fantastic. Okay, so eye shape. So most people's eyes belong to one of 5 basic shapes, although each person's eyes will vary somewhat in terms of length and width. The most emotional and expressive kind of eye is called the round eye. These eyes appear to be nearly as high as they are wide. People with these kinds of eyes have highly curved upper and lower lids, and nearly all of their irises show. These people are bold and gregarious and speak their minds easily. They are often childlike in their reaction to the world, and they are constantly surprised and easily provoked emotionally. Round-eyed people are reactive and dramatic and tend to have intense mood swings. They have a tendency to go to extremes and possess a potential for recklessness. Usually short-tempered, they have an impudent charm that can soothe the ruffled feathers that they cause. The man in this photo has eyes that he holds very wide open, which means he is bold and expressive and most likely says what he thinks. A variation of this eye type is simply called large eyes. These eyes are still very big eyes and are rounded, but they are longer and the lower lid is much straighter. Individuals with these eyes are expressive and artistic. They are usually very attractive to the opposite sex and are known to be romantics. They live by their emotions and tend to be impulsive. They are dramatic when angry and need to be creative to be happy. They dislike confinement and strict rules and live by their feelings. They have active imaginations and can enjoy their fantasy world more than real life when they have been hurt. They're very sociable and usually charming. Large eyes, figure 6-2. And the woman in this photo has large eyes that she holds open, which is a sign that she receives and expresses emotions easily and well. The opposite of this type of eye is called little eyes, and little eyes are much narrower and shorter but can be very cute. Figure 6-3. Individuals with these eyes are introverted and cautious. They hide their emotions from others and often from themselves. They have an extreme need for privacy in regard to their personal life and their feelings. They tend to scrutinize situations on other people, which encourages their suspicion of other people's motives. Sounds like they're suspicious. They are good with details and appreciate precision. They have a heightened sense of skepticism and do not trust easily. However, they are usually quite trustworthy and very good at keeping secrets, which would explain the closed eyes. Because if you think about it, when you're criticizing or being critical or discerning about something, you close your eyes, trying to look closer, with more scrutiny. So they're scrutinizing what they let out as well as what they let in. People with little eyes have a strong sense of reserve and are prone to a heightened sense of embarrassment when their feelings become known. They are much more comfortable in the thinking world than in the feeling one. They prefer to be around people who think as they do. The eyes of this man, you see here, the eyes of this man shows that he keeps his emotions inside. He most likely has a need for privacy and must trust someone before revealing himself. The next type of eye is called almond eyes. And these eyelids curve slightly on the top. You can see how it definitely curves on top and on the bottom. They still show most of their iris, and the colored part of the eye is the iris. You see how part of his iris is cut off, which is you can see how physically his eyelid is covering some of the colored part of his iris. It's covering part of his body, the colored part of him. And whereas in this gal, the iris is encompassed by the upper and the lower eyelid. It's not covering her iris. It's touching the top and the bottom of the iris. So these eyelids curve slightly on the top and the bottom, and they still show most of their iris, but the height of the eye has been reduced. Almond eyes are longer than they are high. So it shows here how the width of the eye is bigger than top to bottom. Almond eyes. It says the woman in this photo has curved lids around her eyes, which indicates strong emotions, but she has some reservations about expressing them. This is considered an exotic eye shape, primarily because they convey a sense of mystery. People with this eye shape are very sensitive and warm, but they are not ruled by emotions. They exhibit caution about revealing deep feelings because they have some control over their emotions and can choose how best to express what they feel. They usually possess more common sense than people with large eyes. They are viewed by most cultures as beautiful eyes and are also considered balanced. People with almond eyes are open enough to receive, but cautious enough to analyze what they have been given. And they have strong emotions, but evaluate when and how safe it is to express these emotions. They can vacillate between logic and feeling easily. Rectangular eyes have eyelids that go primarily straight across the iris. And the eyes are long and narrow. This eye shape is much longer than it is high. This is also considered a balanced eye shape and is especially good for business. If you look here at the figure 6-5, these are rectangular eyes. This is also considered a balanced eye shape and is especially good for business. These eyes belong to thinkers. Their minds are more active than their emotions, and they are interested in using their logic rather than their feelings to deal with the world. You'll see a lot of businessmen and businesswomen with these type of eyes, as you can imagine. They're not considered very emotional, but underneath the surface can feel deep passion. These people are difficult to get to know and to influence because they don't let much in. However, they are loyal to those that become close to and keep their friends for a very long term. They are slow to make changes unless there is enough information to back up their decision. People with rectangular eyes are conscious of money and social status and can be prone to envy. Emotions are usually held in, with the exception of anger, which is usually sharp and precise in its direction and target. These people can be perceptive about other people's motives, which, as you can imagine, would be a very good trait to have in business. The woman in this photo has rectangular eyes, which shows that she has an analytical mind. Although she has deep emotions, she's unlikely to express them easily. Eye set. So the distance between the two eyes measures the set of the eyes discussed more in chapter 8, and the average distance between the eyes is 1 eye length. So in other words, what she's talking about here is that whatever the length of your eye is, you take that measurement and you use that as a measurement. And to have normal set eyes would be to have, if you measure this eye, you bring it forward here. If it's the same size, you have the Goldilocks measurement, which is the average, the normal. If it's less than that eye length, then they're close together. They're set close together. If it's greater than that means then that your eyes are wide apart. So if the eyes are spaced wider apart than that, you have a person with wide set eyes. When the eyes are less than one eye length apart, you have close set eyes. When the outer corner of the eye is higher than the inner corner, you have a person with an upturned eye. So what she's talking about here is this outer corner of the eye. If this is higher than this inside corner, then that means your eyes are upturned. This type of eye belongs to curious and ambitious people, and they are often referred to as cat eyes. People with this trait can be opportunistic because they are quick to spot opportunities that other people haven't seen yet. They also tend to be optimistic, witty, and have clever minds. I was just looking to see if I have my mirror here because I like to have my mirror handy for this face reading. Anyhow, the upturned eyes, I believe my eyes tend to be upturned, and it's true. I tend to see opportunities and even create opportunities where there aren't any. Upturned eyes. The woman in this photograph has what are often called as cat eyes, and that's in 6-6. She's curious, clever, and changeable. So if you look here at 6-6, that's kind of curious because if you draw a straight line across here, you could see it's ever so slight with this gal that the corner of her eye is just a hint above the inner canthus of the eye. I would say that it's even. I wouldn't say that these are upturned eyes, but she's calling them upturned eyes and from her perspective and in her interpretation. Some of face reading, as you can imagine, is subject to your perspective and your interpretation. So here, this is considered an upturn. I guess if you take this corner and you bring it across, you see that it is higher than this inner canthus. But as you can see from this picture, it's very subtle, so you do have to pay close attention. So a downturned eye occurs when the outer corner of the eye is lower than the inner corner, and these kinds of eyes are associated with sadness and soft-heartedness. So that's interesting that a lower canthus to the inner canthus is considered a soft-heartedness trait. So if you look here at 6-7, you'll see again, here's the inner canthus of the eye, and if you draw a line straight across, you'll see that this inner canthus is below this inner canthus. And so along with the soft-heartedness and sadness trait that she talks about, these types of people are also prone to pessimism and to discouragement. They are often kind and compassionate, but can be taken in by a sob story, and they need to watch out for people who would take advantage of their softness. The woman in this photo has kind, downturned eyes, and this is a sign of a soft heart and the ability to feel the sadness of others easily. I was just listening to John Gray today, and one of the things that he was saying is that when you see someone who is in any form of pain, so for example, he used the example of someone who was hunched back when he was a monk and he was in the Swiss mountains in Europe. He actually saw a man who was hunchbacked, and it pained him as soon as he saw that. And one of the reasons why, if you are, let's say, out in public, this is not going to happen at home. This is going to be when you're out in public and you see a stranger. And let's say that you see somebody in a wheelchair, or you see an arthritic person, young or old, and you see that they're struggling with pain as they're moving, and they very much have some sort of disfigure that suggests that they have arthritis, and you have a feeling of pain where you're able to empathize with them. It's because your heart is open and you are one with that person, and that's why you can feel that person's pain, and you're like, oh my gosh, you feel. You've heard of the expression of feeling. It's like you feel for them because you actually do feel for them because you are one with them. We are all one. The more disconnected you are, the more oblivious you're going to be because you're completely unaware. You're not connected. You're all in your head. You're not connected to your heart. The moment you're connected with your heart, you have compassion for other human life forms, for other human beings, for animals and so forth, because you recognize innately and intuitively your oneness with that other life form, and you feel for that other person. Okay. I'm going to make a side note here not to segue, but I think it's important to point out too many people I've heard over the years who they, brandish the flag of being empaths. And one of the, I'm a bit of a maverick, so I, I have sometimes objections that I like to make known because, I think it's very interesting that most people who I hear who are empathic, who claim to be empaths, they say, oh, I'm an empath. And they always, 99% of the time when someone expresses that to me, it's because they're telling me that they can feel other people's pain. But I believe, and I believe, I try not to label myself because I don't like all these labels that, people put you in boxes, and I don't like the boxes. It's part of my maverickdom, I guess you could say. But I think the true empath feels it all. And it's not just the lower vibration of fear, anger, pain, despair, trauma, drama, all the way down the whole. I think it's the full light spectrum of emotions. You feel the pain, you also feel the joy, the ecstasy, the excitement, the enthusiasm, the bliss, the euphoria, the thrill, the vicarious joy, the vicarious appreciation, gratitude. When someone else is experiencing a gain, either they got a gift. In fact, just yesterday, I had the wonderful opportunity that I had shipped a gift to my best friend who lives in Hawaii. And it was just it was like Christmas all over for me to watch her opening her gifts and to see her unpacking and unraveling everything. And I could feel in her body and I could see the expression of joy that she had. And it just filled my heart. And my heart just was just like, it was like this water fountain with water spouting all over the place. I was so thrilled for her and seeing how happy and excited she was. And it made, my intention was to make her feel treasured and loved and cherished. And she felt loved, treasured, and cherished. And so I could feel that for her. So I don't exclusively just feel the negative emotions. I don't just empathize, and I'm not just cornered off with those lower vibrational frequencies, which are all very real. It's the full spectrum of frequencies. So as I hear someone who just closed on their dream home, or they just got their permits approved to start, to tear down their house and build this beautiful, dream home for themselves, or someone who just started their road trip across the states, they decided to pack up their bags, lease out their house, and now they're traveling in an RV around the United States over the next 18 months. They're going to be, that's their thing. And I'm like, what an adventure. How exciting. They don't really know the entire flight plan or the route for the entire journey, but they are going on an adventure. And so I'm like, I know what it's like to go out on an adventure. I was living in Europe for 6 months and went to like 10 countries last year. So I know what that's like. And so for me to see somebody else experiencing that kind of fun, that kind of joy, that kind of excitement, I just must say, I think to be empathic is really to embrace all of the emotions and not just automatically go to the low. So let's move on here. Moving on from the downturned eyes to eye corners. So the inner corner of the eye, just in case any of you are wondering, we are on page 230 of 438. And just so that you know, the paperback, the numbers of the pages on paperback is different than the PDF, than the Kindle. If you need the page number on the Kindle, I will give you the page number. I think it might also depend to the size of font that you set on your Kindle. Oh, this is taking longer than I thought, so maybe I won't be able to give you the page number on the Kindle. Eye corners. I've noticed that on the Kindle, when you put in the search, either for a page number or for a search for a topic, it's not very good it doesn't take you straight to it. Some books are good with that. Others are not. This is, for some reason, it doesn't really work well on this one. Okay, yeah, I'm not being successful here at this time with this, so I will apologize. Yeah, so let's just move on here. Okay, eye corners. So the inner corner of the eye is technically called the inner canthus. In face reading, it is an area that corresponds with the ability to use words, especially words used in anger. So the correlation is simple, and the sharper the corner, the sharper the tongue when angry, and the better that person is at finding the right words. So this is a sign of verbal acuity. So when the inner canthus, and what she is describing here, this is the inner canthus, the inner corner of the eye. That is the inner canthus. So when you look at this inner canthus, and if you see here, this person's inner canthus is rounded. So when the inner canthus is rounded, it signifies a person who is tactful and chooses words carefully. However, they can prevaricate and beat around the bush so much that their intent can be lost. So I'm going to give you a quick little pause here because I'll never forget my husband. He used to say about the CEO of the oil company that he worked for that I'm not going to mention the CEO's name, but he used to say that Mr. Whatchamacallit, we're going to just call him Mr. Whatchamacallit, I would think that if you were to take a good look at his eyes, because right now off the top of my head, I didn't look closely at his eyes, even though I knew him for many, 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 many years. But he would never come out straightforward and say, do this, do that. In true European form, he was very diplomatic. He was a very regal, very elegant man. And he was a European gent. And he would always say, you may want to think about da 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 da, which they quickly learned that meant do this. Whenever he suggested something, those suggestions were not really suggestions. It was his diplomatic way of giving you a gentle reminder that these are what his orders are, but he would never call it an order, definitely would not command it. And again, he's working with professionals. They're, upper level management, engineers, and so forth. And so he would just very diplomatically say, you might consider yada, yada. So he's very diplomatic in his way of speaking. So I would imagine if you were to look at his eyes, or someone who has that type of decorum in expressing themselves, they would have this rounded type of inner canthus. As opposed to, if you look at the average attorney, most attorneys, specifically trial attorneys, you're going to notice that if you look at the inner canthus of their eyes, the inner canthus is like the lady here in the lower portion of this page. You see her inner canthus ends in a point. Instead of being rounded, it's very pointed. And there is a distinction between a pointed canthus, and then there's also a canthus that's actually hooked, which we will see later in this book. And so those three different characteristics indicate their ability to use words with tactfulness and just being choice, just diplomatic in word usage, as opposed to someone who is sharper with their words, as opposed to someone who is very cutting, very strategic cutting, and maybe even bullish with their words. So here she talks about, however, they can prevaricate and beat around the bush so much that their intent can be lost. And when the inner canthus comes to a point, it can indicate a person who uses words with great accuracy. So it's like words are like a sword, or they can be like a surgically precise knife, which some attorneys are very, very skillful and craftful at that, in fact. So unfortunately, when people who have this trait get angry, the words can sting. The words are very carefully chosen, and they are speaking truth, even if the truth is not very nice. When the corners point and curve downward, as in picture or figure 6-10, you have a person who can use words as weapons when necessary. People who have this trait are very aware of it and usually try to do everything they can to resist using this trait. They know their sharp words can cause great emotional pain. Ironically, these people are usually very sensitive and use this weapon only as a last resort. They pull out this trait when they feel they have no other choice because they are backed up against the wall. They can go for the jugular and can inflict harm with their words. They are very focused in anger, perhaps more so than in any other time in their lives. Although they usually regret the pain they cause, the emotional wounds they inflict are usually not easily forgiven. This trait is most often used at the end of relationships. The best way to modify this behavior is for someone with this trait to start expressing their hurt earlier and more often so that they don't need to revert to using words as weapons. Kind of interesting. Now, if you studied Lillian Pearl Bridges' books, if you've been to any of her events, if you've watched her YouTube videos and so forth, you'll see that she talks about how oftentimes once you bring certain things to light about a specific trait as you're doing the face reading, right before your eyes, I've actually witnessed this myself in the classes that I've taken. And it's absolutely uncanny when you actually see a slight change in somebody's eyes, eyebrows, facial lines that were there either become more prominent or they disappear. It's trippy to think that, what our modern culture calls wrinkles. But they're facial lines that are marked because the emotion, the energy in the emotion marks it on your face, because your face, Lillian Pearl Bridges says, your face is like a hologram. So depending on the emotion that's being expressed or repressed and oppressed, it will mark your face accordingly. And so as those things come to light and you let go of the energy, the lines oftentimes disappear. It's interesting because oftentimes without doing anything, I had the awareness in the first face reading class that I took. I had a lost love line, which I thought I inherited from my grandmother. And who knows, maybe that lost love, maybe it was the energy pattern passed from her to my father to me. But I always assumed that that was a trait that I just had from her. And I noticed a few weeks after the class, just one day I looked in the mirror and all of a sudden I realized, that line's gone. I didn't expect it to go away. I just noticed one day that it was gone. So I immediately told my group and thought that was kind of exciting. It's not really a wrinkle. It was just literally a little line, very thin little line that went across the top of my nose. I don't have it anymore, which is kind of nice. And whenever I would get a lot of sun, I wouldn't have a line necessarily, but I would, it was more pronounced the more sun I got. And, for like right now, it's winter time in the US. So I haven't been out in the sun, even though I've been going out, getting my 10 minutes of sunshine. I try to get 10 minutes or 15 every day. So I got a wee bit of sun, but not much. But I'm kind of fair right now. During the summer, and especially when I travel, especially to tropical places, I can get really dark. And so that line would get more pronounced. I would get a lot of sun, and I get many shades darker than I am. I mean, considerably darker. So it'll be interesting next summer because I don't have that line anymore. Okay, so let's see. Okay, on the right side here of this page, which is page 230, the rounded corners in this woman's eyes show her tactfulness and care with words. She does not want to use words to hurt other people's feelings and is kind even when she is angry. So even when she's angry, she's still gentle with her words. In contrast to this lady who is a little more sharp, when I say that she's more sharp-tongued. So the pointed inner canthus, this inner corner of this woman's eyes, comes to a point. So see how it hooks down, which indicates her ability to choose the right words, which is good for both verbal and written communication. But it also reveals that she is capable of having a sharp tongue when she is angry. The sharp and slightly curved corner of this man's eye indicates his ability to use words as a weapon if necessary. So he can wield his words like a sword if necessary. He chooses words precisely for their emotional impact and speaks the truth pointedly when angry. However, this trait will only be seen by someone who has caused him pain. Iris. So the iris is the colored portion of the eye that surrounds the pupil. So it's the colored part of the eye. The actual color of the iris is hereditary, and the ancient Chinese were fascinated by variations in the color of the iris, primarily because most of their population had dark irises. They therefore looked at the richness of the color as well as the color of the light that comes off the iris, which is also called the Shen color. The Chinese believed that lighter colored irises belonged to more mental people, and that darker colored irises indicated emotionality and passion. They believed that the color of the Shen was the color of a person's spirit. So the best way to evaluate the color of the iris is to look at them in bright sunlight or with a strong flashlight. So you are looking for the combination of colors that you see off the surface of the eye. So for example, if someone has blue eyes with yellow flecks, it is very likely that the light coming off the eye is not blue. It may be aqua or some variation of green. Blue eyes are often seen as having gray Shen, and brown eyes can have Shen that varies from gold to orange to red. The Shen color can be seen approximately a quarter inch off the eye. Blue Shen indicates a very mental person who can often be called intellectual. Aqua Shen is correlated to idealists. Gray Shen is tied to deep thinkers, whereas green Shen is seen as mysterious with emotional depth. True brown Shen belongs to friendly people. Gold Shen indicates a mercurial temperament with enhanced magnetism. Any shade of red or orange in the Shen, including rust and copper tones, belong to people who are passionate and volatile. So this is kind of interesting how they talked about the different Shen colors. To be quite frank, I see Shen in people's eyes. I see the lack of Shen in people's eyes, which is equally as disturbing, which is, sometimes you see that out in public and it's kind of a cold, dead look in a person's eye. And that is you got to pay attention when you see that. Usually there's no threat to you, but you need to know that somebody who has no Shen in their eyes is somebody who probably has had some sort of psychotic break in their persona. So they've had such a deep wounding of their spirit, which is what's sucked literally the life out of their Shen. So people like this are capable of unimaginable things because it's a disconnected aspect of their spirit to their heart and to their being, which is what creates their capacity to do this. And so oftentimes you'll see with serial killer, not often, in fact, every time I've ever seen a picture of a serial killer, sure enough, you see there's no Shen in their eyes. There's zero Shen in their eyes. It's a very cold, calculated look. It's unmistakable. You can't miss it. And sometimes you see that, like I said, out in public. I hope none of you see that in any of your family members, because that is very disturbing. And if you do see it in a family member, you just know that person is potentially a ticking time bomb. And so I would encourage you to, during your meditation time, and energy, the energy healing arts are without question the most powerful anywhere in existence. And so make no mistakes, when you do a meditation and you send love energy to that person, you are making a deposit, you are making a contribution to help restore that person's Shen so that they can reintegrate into their humanity. So it's not completely lost, but it's tough road for people who go down that path, but their soul picked that path, to each their own. So white-sided eyes. Here we are. We're on page 234. White-sided eyes. It is normal for the iris to be covered by a small portion of both the upper and the lower eyelids. Eyes in which the whites, as in here, show either below or above the iris are referred to as three white-sided eyes. This is an unusual manifestation of deficient fire energy of the nervous system. While the adrenal glands are connected to the kidney system, overuse of the adrenals creates a fiery nervous system that the heart controls. So people who have three white-sided eyes have an overactive nervous system and are depleted of adrenal glands. This overuse of the fire energy creates nervous, hypersensitive, and edgy people. People with these kinds of eyes often complain of insomnia and are exhausted. And this trait is also associated with thyroid problems. Here you can see it with our former President Kennedy. Oftentimes with people with thyroid problems, what I notice also is that the overall eye tends to be more bulging. One of the reasons why I took the face reading course is that there were things that I would see on I'd see it all over their bodies. I'd notice certain characteristics and I would inherently know what those things were just instinctively and intuitively. I would know what some of these things were. And I thought, wow, once I learned about Chinese face reading, I thought if I took a face reading course, at least I could confirm, I could verify and have with a greater degree of certainty. I have additional data now that I can use to confirm my intuitive hits. And so anyhow, getting back here to this particular picture, you clearly see how he's kind of got a rounder, bulgier eye. He has a three-sided white, so you have on the inside, the outside, and below. So he has the three-sided white of his eyes, which is not a good sign because it's showing that he has some adrenal fatigue. He's got probably a thyroid issue going on. This president, he's notorious for having been under constant pain all the time and constant fatigue. He was constantly getting vitamin B shots, all sorts of IV cocktails of all sorts of vitamins and so forth to help him with energy because he really struggled with this condition. The most common form of these three white-sided eyes is when the white shows on the bottom, which the Japanese called sanpaku. I know that the Hawaiians also call this sanpaku. And they say if you see somebody with sanpaku, go in the other direction because these people oftentimes can go postal. In the US, we call it postal. The origin of that is we had a rash of incidences in the last 25 years where literally postal workers were under such a great amount of stress that they literally showed up to work one day with a gun and started shooting everyone. And that's what to go postal means. They basically went crazy. And so what the Japanese are alluding to is that this is somebody who's under an incredible amount of stress, fatigue, and exhaustion, and their energy is off. Sometimes dangerously so. So it says here, in this case, the irises do not touch the bottom eyelid and the whites of the eyes show beneath. Many ordinary people have this trait when they are under severe stress, are exhausted, or are very sick. People with this trait can step on other people's toes because they are so reactive emotionally. They are temperamental, take offense easily, and are very prone to making enemies. Three white-sided eyes are not considered a dangerous trait when the average person manifests them. It can be a temporary condition caused by depression, illness, or exhaustion. It is a sign that the individual needs some serious rest and rejuvenation to calm down and to re-energize. Such a person needs to learn to stop living on nervous energy. I also want to point out that in this picture, we're seeing the three white-sided eyes, on left, inside, outside, and below, but you can also see it inside, outside, and above. And it's a even more dramatic and a more alarming signal to you. If you see someone with the three whited side eyes, and you see that you see the white part above the iris, that is a psychopathic trait. So you just want to steer clear of any man or any woman that has that trait. Just steer clear of them, because that is not a healthy thing. Now, if you are looking, like she says here, this is a sign that you need to rest and to relax. You have a hypersensitive autonomic nervous system. It's affecting your parasympathetic system. And so the fastest way, like right here, right now, in the next couple of seconds, you can start to balance that. And I learned this. There's Dr. Andrew Huberman of Stanford Research Institute. And you also have Nestor James, who wrote a book called Breathe. And these neuroscientists, Dr. Andrew Huberman talks about, all you need to do is take 3 cycles of 2 sighs and exhale. And this is something that we all do as children. So right now, one of the things that you can do is to start to rest, rejuvenate, and reset your autonomic nervous system so that you start to calm down is two sighs and exhale. 2 sighs, exhale, 2 sighs, exhale. Now I want you to think about this, because every single one of us has done this when we were kids. And then we stop doing it as we grow up. Something happens that puts so much fear into us that we hold our breath. And then from that point forward, you don't exhale anymore. And that's why they did a movie several years ago called Learning to Exhale. Right now, we are in this worldwide pandemic, and everybody's walking around. No one's exhaling. Everyone's holding their breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Can't do that. More than ever, we have to practice the breath. If when you wake up in the morning, you sit up in bed, you stretch, just doing this pose of having your hands, they call this the Wonder Woman pose. And by putting your fingers out like this, you increase willpower. And by doing it automatically calms you down. And if you just get into the habit of doing it every time you wake up in the morning, just as one of your practices, as you sit up in bed, before you get out of bed, or as you walk over to go brush your teeth, maybe before you go to bed, maybe in the middle of the day, whenever you think about it, you just go, and you just tell yourself, okay, from now on, I'm going to remember conscious brain, super consciousness. I command you, anytime I feel myself tensing up, if I start to become aware that I'm holding my breath, or that I'm feeling a little nervous or anxious or a little just on edge, I'm just going to do instantly. It's like an automatic reset button for your autonomic nervous system. This is free, my friends and gems, free. So I'm spending a little bit of extra time on this one particular thing. Just by doing that, I'm feeling more tingly in my hands. The energy is flowing more into my hands. Just from doing that, I think it was 9 times that I did that. 3, 3, and 3, yeah, 9. So the energy will start to circulate in your body. And make no mistakes, as the energy goes, your circulation goes, you're alkalizing your body with that. If you want to take this a step up, and in addition to resetting your autonomic nervous system by doing those three sighs, those 3 sets where you do 2 sighs and an exhale, if you take it further and you do 10 deep breaths where you slowly inhale as slowly as you can, hold as long as you can without efforting, and then exhale, you do 10 deep breaths like that, you're automatically alkalizing your body. You are automatically changing your blood chemistry. You're automatically, literally Your breath is the remote control to your brain. It controls the left and the right side. You are conscientiously, by doing those 10 breaths, by doing those 3 sets of 2 sighs and an exhale, you are commanding blood flow to the right side of your brain and the left side of your brain. And you're starting to open the doorway, the gateway to your intuition. I'm gonna teach a whole class on this. I mean, this is really, really, really powerful stuff. You wanna check out, if you wanna do a deep dive on this and go into really putting your hands on more of the intricacies of this, hands down, I would highly recommend you join me on the Read, Review, and Apply of Becoming Supernatural. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's well overdue for having, he should have a Nobel Peace Prize at this point for dovetailing the thousands of years of mystical teachings along with the neuroscience and actually physically tests with brain scans, EEGs, EKGs, heart rate variability. He's measuring immunoglobulin levels through the breath, through meditation. People are increasing their immune systems. People getting out of wheelchairs, being healed of Parkinson's, cancers, HIV, kidney failure. There's one guy I know who had 50 brain tumors, 8 tumors in his lungs. He was at stage 4 cancer, all completely healed by doing the formula and by doing meditations. So I can't talk enough about this. It's something I'm very passionate about. But it all goes hand in hand with this. So I'm very excited about sharing this information with you guys. Okay, so back to the book, second paragraph here. In this case, the irises do not touch the bottom eyelid and the white of the eyes show beneath. Many ordinary people have this trait. Okay, we already read this. So such a person needs to learn to stop living on nervous energy. Okay, one other thing is that sometimes we find ourselves and people who are, it says here, such a person needs to learn to stop living on nervous energy. Sometimes people, in order to feel alive, they become addicted to the emotion of nervous energy because to feel calm, they don't feel the energy in their bodies. And so they are actually addicted to the personality of themselves that needs drama and trauma and needs angst and needs nervousness and needs the cyclic negative thinking in their head that just causes them to be in a constant fight or flight situation. So in order to get out of that thinking loop, you can do this meditative practice and that will help rebalance you. At the very least, do the 2 sighs and an exhale, 3 sets. That's it. That's all it takes. You don't need to do 10, 15, or 20. Just 3 of them is enough. Okay? For more tools, tips, and tricks having to do with this, just circle back around on Love and Money Secrets TV. That's what this channel is all about. Okay. However, 3 white-sided eyes in a famous person are considered a very dangerous trait that often leads to assassination. Whew, let's read that again. However, 3 white-sided eyes in a famous person are considered a very dangerous trait that often leads to assassination. 611. Famous public figures with this trait who were assassinated include Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, Yitzhak Rabin, and John Lennon. For years, I have tried to determine why this trait was so dangerous in famous people. The 3 white-sided eyes of John F. Kennedy are apparent in photographs of him even when he was younger. This trait was caused by his Addison's disease or adrenal deficiency. However, it may have also contributed to his assassination. In analyzing the assassinations, I realized that a person with severe psychosis or schizophrenia killed each of these famous people. Schizophrenia is correlated to a misfiring in the brainstem or the animal brain. This part of the brain is involved in instinct and impulse control, and 3 white-sided eyes are a classic symptom of adrenal deficiency in all animals. In pack animals, a younger and healthier male will attack and kill a leader who shows signs of a physical weakening. And perhaps in misguided human beings, the same trait may be read and interpreted through their psychosis or paranoia. Unfortunately, the rigors of a famous life often lead to adrenal deficiency, giving many world leaders and celebrities three white sided eyes, which may call out the animal instincts of their would be assassins. The assassins stalk and kill the leader or celebrity they obsess about in the delusional hope of gaining control and taking his or her place. So wrong, but it's human behavior. Three white sided eyes, where the white is visible on the top, is much less dangerous physically, but is more dangerous mentally. That's what I was talking about just a few minutes ago. It occurs when the upper eyelid does not touch the top of the iris, and this gives someone the appearance of always being surprised or startled. In actuality, it is a sign of an overactive or even a hyperactive nervous system that creates feelings of anxiety or panic or terror. People with this trait are prone to hysteria because they are so tightly wound. It can also be a sign preceding violent behavior and will show just right before a person snaps. People with three white sided eyes take everything personally and are hypersensitive to criticism or perceived attacks. If they do not have the energy to contain their fear, they can spin out of control. You don't want to stick around to find out. So just dodge that person like dodging a bullet. The most severe form of white sided eyes is four white sided eyes. This is a rare characteristic in which the iris is completely surrounded by the sclera, and both the lower and upper eyelids fail to meet the iris. People with this trait are unnaturally tense and prone to maladies of the nervous system. The ancient Chinese considered it a sign of a shortened lifespan because these people deplete their jing by living with so much fire. The blessing of this condition is that these people can have unusual minds, often bordering on genius. They have quick and sharp reactions, and they have quick and sharp reactions, and they may feeling chronic fear and terror. Okay, that's a little grammatical error there. They have quick and sharp reactions, and they may have been feeling chronic fear and terror. They are accident prone and have overly active brains and an excitable nervous system. If their nervous energy is uncontrolled, it can lead to mental illness and manic behavior. Their eyes are open so wide that they take in too many stimuli. They need to learn to shut out the world and live on a more balanced frequency. So that makes sense because their eyes are so open that they're taking too much stimuli as opposed to someone who has that more critical discerning eye. I think of course, we all want a healthy balance where it's not completely wide open, but you don't want to have them so critical and small. You want to have, kind of a balance. Tips and corners of other features. So fire marks every other feature on the face. Its flame touches and scorches the face, changing the landscape of the markings it leaves behind. So most of these markings are the lines caused by expressions and past experience, but some markings occur when the fire element overacts on another element. The most important lines are the joy and sorrow lines on the outside corner of the eyes, and the lost love lines radiating out from the inner canthus underneath the eye, meaning that some part of yourself was left behind in your past. Fire also affects the corners of the mouth and regulates the feelings of optimism and of disappointment. But some markings occur when the fire element overacts to another element. Then the tips and corners of all features associated with other organs are kissed and singed by fire. The most significant sign of fire energy after a large amount of Shen is the most significant sign of fire energy after a large amount of Shen is a pointed tongue. This reveals a person who is inherently strong in the fire element and needs to have fun. Which means they appreciate variety and communication. They are changeable and playful and love to tease. The tip of the tongue can also be evaluated for the color, which indicates the condition of the blood. Ears that come to a point anywhere towards the top of the ear so that they look a little bit like elf's ears have also been touched by fire. In fact, I just saw a girl just this last week that she had very pointy ears, and I was thinking that they kind of look like Spock ears or leprechaun ears. This is a sign of a person who has a tendency toward extreme emotions. The character of Mr. Spock on the television show Star Trek had extreme examples of these kinds of ears. He was known for his lack of emotion, or what was eventually discovered to be his control of his emotions. After many seasons of Star Trek, there was finally an episode in which he lost control, finally revealing the true meaning of that trait. Interesting. So as you can see, this girl's ear is very pointed here. So pointed ears. The cartilage comes to a point at the top of this woman's ear, which means that she can feel and express very strong emotions on occasion. So it sounds like she holds them in until they come to like an acme, to a point, and then she expresses very strongly. Excuse me. When the fire element touches the eyebrows, it burns down the intensity of the wood element. Fire is shown in the tapering outside ends of the eyebrows. This is a sign of artistic ability and a strong sense of aesthetics. So you have figure 613. Trying to make sense of this. I sometimes have issue with the water, fire, wood elements, and it says here, when the fire element touches the eyebrows, it burns down the intensity of the wood element. So the fire element is touching the eyebrows. Still not kind of getting it. It burns down the intensity of the wood element. Fire is shown in the tapering. So fire is shown in the tapering outside ends of the eyebrows. So you see how it's whiter here and then it tapers down into thin. I don't like that where I have a thicker, but I think most people have the thicker eyebrows here and then it goes thin. Although I do know some people, I know some people who actually the eyebrows are kind of like thick and they don't go thin at all. They just stay thick to the end here. So this is showing that the fire element tapers down, it goes thin. So the fire is shown in the tapering outside end of the brows. This is a sign of artistic ability and a strong sense of aesthetics. Okay, I definitely have an artistic ability and I have a love of aesthetics, of beautiful, beautiful clothes, beautiful houses, beautiful things, beautiful nature, beautiful flowers, beautiful landscapes, beautiful sunrises and sunsets. I love a gorgeous sunrise and a gorgeous sunset. It's a living work of art. The woman's eyebrows are thinner at the end and come to a point which shows that she is creative with a refined aesthetic. An unusual type of fiery eye is called the upside down eye. This can be seen when you turn a photograph upside down and the eyes still look normal because of a strong lost love line that looks like an eyelid. It is a sign of a person who flips or makes 180-degree changes in opinions, ideas, or lifestyle choices and is known to cut off previously close friends all of a sudden. Individuals with this trait have a strong streak of unpredictability, as there's no way to know when they will make the switch. However, it is not a very common eye type. We'll have to look at pictures with that upside down eye. So I wish she had a picture of this here, but I don't think she does. It just talks about it. So it's an unusual type of fiery eye called the upside down eye. It can be seen when you turn a photograph upside down and the eyes still look normal because of a strong lost love line that looks like an eyelid. Oh, so I see what they're saying. So if this person, for example, had that type of an upside down eye, if you were to take this upside down, the lost love line here would be such a deep groove that it would emulate the deep groove from the upper lid. And by turning it upside down, it would look like a lid below. This person obviously doesn't have it because see, she has a faint lost love line. She has a faint lost love line. It starts from the inner canthus and it's broken. It goes here and then it goes into a sorrow. So it goes from lost love to sadness. These are joy lines right here. And then starting here, these are sadness lines. She has some sorrow. And right here is her lost love line. Goes from here to here. Okay. So fire on the nose is shown on the tip, whereas the rest of the nose belongs to the mental element and the lungs. Okay, so the rest of the nose belongs to the metal element and the lungs. This area has one of the strongest correlations with the heart and the diagnosis of heart problems. Will be discussed in more detail in chapter 10. One line that can be interpreted emotionally is the line that cuts horizontally just above the tip of the nose, and this signals an emotional fire deficiency. I just saw somebody yesterday with a very marked, it's called, there's another name for it, an angel marking. This is a sign of an emotionally broken heart in the past. Somebody who has you can feel it. Some people can feel it in their nose. I can feel it in mine. Mine's not as marked, thank goodness. When it suddenly turns very red across the tip, that is a sign of an emotionally broken heart in the past. It is a sign that the heart is in distress emotionally. New research from Johns Hopkins has discovered that a sudden emotional stress can result in severe but reversible heart muscle weakness that mimics a classic heart attack. It is now being called the broken heart syndrome. In fact, there's a world famous cardiologist here in Newport Beach who's a very dear friend of mine, Dr. Fuzz Rajput. And Dr. Fuzz says that he sees in his medical practice quite frequently how people who have had full-blown heart attacks and people who have gone through a massive divorce where they lost, someone who they love dearly, either through divorce or through maybe their spouse passed away, the same exact physical manifestations in the heart as someone who had a full-blown heart attack. And the protocol for treating the person who is suffering that broken heart syndrome is the exact same protocol that they do for someone who's had a heart attack. And so I thought that was absolutely fascinating. So this is what is now being called the broken heart syndrome. And is a result of a massive amount, and it's as a result of a massive amount of stress hormones stunning the heart. However, it is luckily reversible. Figure 614, broken heart line. So you can see very clearly at the tip of this guy's nose, you can tell all sorts of things from this guy's face, even though it's limited to the middle region of his face, but you can clearly see how there's that indentation here. He's got some red coloring. He's got some fire, some ruddiness sprinkled on his nose as well as a little bit of his cheek. And so he has that broken, the broken heart syndrome that they talk about. It's also called an angel marking. A line marks this man's nose horizontally above the tip. It is a sign of an overactive pericardium that is protecting his heart as he has been hurt before. It has probably made him more cognizant of the bittersweet quality of life. A milder version of a broken heart line is shown where the nose is also upturned. That's in this figure 615. This is not dangerous and indicates a sentimental person. People with cute upturned noses are very sensitive and cry at sad movies, save souvenirs, and often make scrapbooks. They don't take any kindness for granted because they have been hurt in the past. It's a cute little upturned nose. I do want to say that if you find yourself in a position where you are in the middle of, if you are about to break up, just broke up, or have suffered a breakup recently, you don't have to suffer the pain of a broken heart, and you can not let in the energy of a broken heart. You can choose not to suffer, not to have that pain, and you can mitigate it. You can actually lessen that pain. I actually have it's a 5-step process, but you can actually, the day that you have your breakup, which is what I did when I had the breakup with my boyfriend. Interestingly enough, I didn't have to do this during my divorce because things had played out over the course of a decade. So I had a decade to kind of get used to the whole thing, even though it was really painful. The first year wasn't bad at all. It was not bad at all. But the 5 years after that was just really, really, really not a fun experience, a really very painful experience. But what I'm just wanting to let you know is that the day that you have a breakup, like in my case, when I found out, when we experienced this unexpected breakup, and I knew that it was over that evening, and and I love this person, and so I decided I don't want to suffer unnecessary pain, and because I knew enough about not just energetics, but I also knew about energy and about meditation and the spirit realm and just everything that I knew up until that point in my life. I knew what steps to take in order to ensure that I wouldn't suffer. I didn't know how quickly or how effectively. I knew that I would get relief. I just didn't know how quickly I would get the relief. And then I was very pleasantly surprised that as I did that process that same evening, because I was crying, as I think everybody cries when you suffer a breakup, male or female. I'm like, dear God, I don't want to suffer pain. This is, yeah, I just don't want to suffer, and I don't want to have heartache, and I want to process this. I want to take whatever the lesson is. I want to learn from it. I want to finish this soul contract and put this in the past. And I just want to take the lessons, keep that wisdom, and move forward. And so I did that process that same evening, and I felt so relieved, so light, I felt so good the next morning, even though I didn't sleep. I only slept like a couple hours. I finally, fell asleep like at 6, didn't wake up till like 8, and felt completely refreshed. And I felt light. I felt free. I actually felt surprisingly, shockingly fantastic. And my brain was doing all sorts of trying to make sense of this. Like, how could I feel so good if I just went through this breakup and had no heartache? So you'll have to watch the How to Get Over a Breakup in 5 Steps. There's a playlist. You'll see there's 7 videos there, 7 parts to it. It's 5 steps. And I think I even included a testimonial in there of a gal who did it like the same day she broke up with her boyfriend, with the father of her baby. She immediately, reached out to me. I have a lot of people on Facebook who reach out to me, private message me. And so I had her go through this protocol, and she couldn't believe how it worked so well. I have quite a few testimonials. I'll eventually have to get into creating a video with all the testimonials in a row so that they're all in one place. Anyhow, moving on about the broken heart syndrome here. A turning down of the tip of the nose indicates a person who is not easily fooled by others. This type of person tends to be shrewd about others. Individuals in whom the nose tip covers part of the philtrum, this is the philtrum, are also shrewd about finances. These people have hearts that can be a little more closed down, and their minds are a lot more focused on business. So again, when you see someone whose the nose tip covers part of the philtrum, they're shrewd about finances. That means that they're good about saving money, they're good about investing money, they're good about managing money, and their hearts can be a little more closed down, and their minds are more focused on business. So they're more focused on business, more left-brained. Everybody has their pluses and their minuses. You see how this person, a downturned nose, so it shows here, this woman's nose curve slightly downward, indicating that she is very wise about people and their motives. It also covers a bit of the philtrum. So this is the philtrum right here, showing that she is smart with money. A rounded nose tip, figure 617, this is a rounded nose tip, belongs to a trusting person who needs creature comforts and pleasure. However, if it is too puffy, it can be a sign of heart disease. If it's puffy, so if you see any kind of swelling, edema, that's suggestive of potential heart disease. A squared nose tip, like this person has a very squared nose tip, is indicative of a practical person. Practical, pragmatic. The nose tip is pointed in a person who has a nose for news. This person wants to get to the bottom of the mystery or solve the puzzle. They ask why a lot and collect information. So rounded nose tip of this woman signals that she needs her creature comforts, and she also loves being surrounded by beautiful things. This person's nose, her nose tip, is a sign of practical nature, especially when concerned with spending money. So she's very pragmatic about her spending money. This person is really good about investing money, but she's got a little bit of guardedness. And she wants nice things that have good value. Pointed nose tip. So she's got a pointier nose tip here. This tip of this woman's nose is pointed, which indicates her need to know why. She likes to get to the bottom of things and solves puzzles and mysteries. Okay, we're going to go 10 minutes and then we'll be done with this session for today. The corners of the mouth are directly tied to some important heart emotions. An upturned mouth means a person is optimistic, cheerful, and positive, and this helps them attract attention. It is also a very important emotion to cultivate for optimum health. The downturned mouth indicates disappointment. People with this trait are prone to pessimism, often because of past disappointment. This can be a self-fulfilling prophecy and can not only compromise future happiness, but also influence health negatively. An upturned mouth. The lovely upturned corners on this young man's mouth are a sign of an optimistic nature and his positive outlook on life, and the downturned mouth is slightly downturned corners on this woman's mouth indicate that she has been disappointed recently. This has made her view life with a little more pessimism. The lip angles are also controlled by the fire element through the small intestines, and this organ is responsible for discernment and refinement of the senses. People with lips that look as if they were etched and have a sharp upper tip are very physically sensitive to stimulation. See how sharp these lips are? The edges are very sharp and very pointed. They dislike being tickled or treated roughly. They need gentleness because of their sensitivity. They hate being grabbed. Less defined lips belong to people who can take a rougher touch and enjoy a lot of tactile stimulation and even roughhousing. Etched lips, 622. The top corners of this man's lips look like they have been drawn with a sharp pencil. Boom, 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 boom. This means that he has a refined kinesthetic sense and is very sensitive about the way he is touched and gentle when he touches. When lines mark the middle lip, so when lines mark the middle of the lower lip, you have found a person who has a good sense of humor. So see this line down the middle has to do with a good sense of humor. And these lines appear only if people laugh or smile a lot, which cause their lips to stretch. The deeper the lines, the better the sense of humor. And people with few deep lines tend to appreciate slapstick humor or physical comedy. The lighter the lines, the more wit needs to be involved in the humor or the joke or the story to be considered funny. This humor trait is emphasized by a dip in the lower lip. People with this indentation can find almost anything funny. I think I have that line in my lip because I laugh very easily. Everything is very funny to me. I laugh very easily. Dimples in the cheek. I've got dimples too up here instead of, actually, Dr. Snyder says I have as well on my side cheeks here. Dimples in the cheek are some of the most attractive fire traits. They are a sign of extra magnetism and charm. Dimples allow people to get out of trouble easier because people who have them just look so cute. People with dimples can get away with a lot and are forgiven easily. They are known to be glib and charming. However, the ancient Chinese cautioned that people with dimples could get away with using this trait only until they get to their mid-50s. They have to do what they say and follow through. It is also supposed to indicate a person who has the ability to drink alcohol and can be the life of a party or dance on tables when inebriated. This is so funny because my dad has dimples. My dad doesn't drink. My little brother has dimples, and the girls still, his whole life, ever since he was a baby, people and girls have always cooed at him because he's got these adorable, adorable dimples. Okay, the dimple on this woman's cheek gives her lots of extra charm that helps her stay out of trouble. The dimple in the chin is a sign of a person who has a desire for attention, appreciation, or recognition. People with this trait need their thank yous. They want you to pay attention to what they have done and to reward them accordingly. An individual with a cleft is a natural performer. I don't have one. I'm going to show you an actress who does have one in a minute. This was the child who always says, "Look at me." As adults, they still crave the limelight. They want to be the center of attention and live for applause. Both the dimple and the cleft belong to people who can end up being pleasers at their own expense. This is a classic case of fire. The dimple or cleft overacting on water, the will. Oh, okay, so the water is your willpower. People with this trait would rather be liked than do what they are supposed to do. This trait is evident in the class clown and in performers. The attention can become more important than accomplishment. If you live or work with people who have this trait, be sure to tell them how wonderful they are all the time. So she's got a tiny dimple. This guy has a cleft. So dimple chin, it's very faint. This woman has a dimple on her chin, so she is no doubt very charming and needs you to pay attention to her. This guy here, the cleft chin, this man's cleft chin is a sign of the performer, and he needs recognition and appreciation for his humor. Fire energy is important because it makes life worth living and it's fun. People who have lots of fire energy can be charming and captivating, or restless and annoying, or all of the above in a short amount of time. Fire makes the mind and the emotions more active and allows the emotions to be fully expressed. Without fire, life wouldn't be as vibrant or colorful. Like the flame, it appears in many forms. It flickers and roars, consumes and teases and transes and changes. And like smoldering embers, it is always ready to be rekindled. The true meaning of fire is to experience all the variety that life has to offer. Fire is temporary and fleeting. To hold on to anything or stay connected, you have to go to the earth element. Okay, so I'm gonna, for ending here, we are going to, this is page 248. So next Tuesday, we will go back on page 248. I'm gonna do the stop screen share here just for a moment. I don't know why this is showing recording paused, but it's live on YouTube, so this is good. Anyhow, let me show you the actress. I'm gonna show you the actress. Let's do screen share. Okay, so we're going to show you. So this is Alexis Bledel. And if you look at her, you can tell she has a very marked, in fact, I can probably find a better picture of her, because pretty much in all of the episodes of the Gilmore Girls, you could see her pronounced little cleft in her chin, pretty much across here. You'll see this in a lot of actors and actresses. Okay. I guess that's a wrap for today. Let's see. Okay, so we are ending here on page 238. Thank you for tuning in, tapping and turning on to Chinese face reading and the review, the read, review, and reply. No, the read, the review, and apply application of face reading. And we will tune and tap in, turn on to the next chapter starting on page 248 next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for joining us today. And that's it for now. And as always, my friends and gems, I say, ciao for now. It'll be 2021 the next time we meet because, as you know, today is the 29th. We only got a few days left of 2020. So thank you for an incredible year. We got to over 500 subs in 2020 alone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're small, but we're growing. And it's been quite an incredible year. And I just thank you for being intersecting on this earth plane with me to get to this point in time. So we will see you on the other side, online, next Tuesday at 7 p.m. I would highly encourage you to tune in, tap, and turn on. I now have our Becoming Supernatural daily motivational quotes every day for less than 60 seconds. You have a meditative motivational quote that you can check out. I will put one in the description below, and you will have a little Zen moment for less than 60 seconds every day with beautiful music and with a motivational quote directly from the Becoming Supernatural book. Check it out. All right, take care. Bye.